I wanted to make a video expressing the ridiculousness of comparing the Black Lives Matter movement and the Black Lives Matter movement riots to the Boston Tea Party. The first thing is, nobody was killed in the Boston Tea Party riot. That's the truth. Tea was dumped into a harbor. The British did not attack the Americans. The Americans did not attack the British. In fact, even Benjamin Franklin offered to pay for the tea if the British would reopen the harbor. The British never reopened the harbor, so Benjamin Franklin never paid for the tea. More importantly, I think what's important to understand here is the history. People don't people don't understand. The American Revolution actually goes all the way back to basically the English Civil War between the Puritans and the monarchists. Okay, the United States was founded by primarily two religious groups, both English. The first one is the Puritans, and the second one is the Quakers at successive times, but roughly in the 1600s. Both were in the 1600s, one in the early 1600s, one in the middle and late 1600s. Everybody knows about Plymouth Rock. Of course, the story has changed now that lunatics have taken over the public school system. And, of course, everybody knows about the city of Philadelphia. What people do not understand is the fact that basically the monarchist abuse of Puritans and Quakers was what led to the founding of America, especially the colonies of America. And what happened was, after centuries of abuse, well, not quite centuries, but after quite a long time of abuse, these two religious organizations founded separate colonies in the New World where they could freely practice their religions without the persecution and abuse of the monarchy. Okay? And with Quakerism and Puritanism, they both created communitarian societies that were self-sustaining and that traded peacefully, more or less, with the native populations. Okay, so what happened was, how this goes into the American Revolution is the British were continuing to abuse and neglect their responsibilities to their colonial subjects. And then the colonial subjects, under the founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson, drafted the Declaration of Independence and declared themselves independent from Great Britain. Trying, of course, to exit peacefully, to secede peacefully. The other thing is, what you need to understand is the U.S. citizenry did not ask for things that weren't theirs. They simply wanted what was theirs. Their property, their money, their country that they fought for, that they created with their bare hands, their sweat, their tears. As a person whose family has fought in absolutely every war in this country, even ironically, my Mormon family, the Clark name, with my Mormon family, the Clark side of it actually fought against the Mormon side during the Mormon extermination orders. Okay, so my family had fought in literally every war, from the Revolution to the French and Indian War to the wars against the Native Americans to the wars, to the Civil War, etc. So the thing is, I find it extremely offensive that people would consider, and you know what, I'm offended. That's the magic word now. I'm offended. But I find it very offensive that anyone would compare people that tried so hard to peacefully coexist with the English, and then peacefully coexist with the indigenous populations and only resorted to violence as a last resort. It didn't steal and loot and break stuff and all that stuff. Worked very hard to maintain peace, are compared to this nonsense that is going on now. And you see on the you see Black Lives Matter. Now Black Lives Matter say things such as they're trained Marxists, they're against the nuclear family. You could compare what the Puritans and the Quakers were fighting for, the ability to exist, versus what Black Lives Matter is fighting for. Gives me free stuff. Okay? Gives me free stuff. That's what Black Lives Matter is fighting for. They demanded that white people give them their homes. They demanded that the nuclear family be broken up, the basic unit of any civilized society. I don't care where the hell you live in this world, the nuclear family is the building block of your society. They're against the nuclear family. They're allegedly trained Marxists. Now, I'm going to get into this. They're cultural Marxists. Cultural Marxism is not communism. Cultural Marxism was designed by a bunch of Italians and a bunch of people that were kicked out of Germany that originally were in charge of something called the Frankfurt School. So you had a bunch of Italian communists and anarchists that Mussolini kicked out of Italy. And you have a bunch of, I'm not going to say what ethnicity they were, brackets, 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 that Hitler kicked out of Germany because they were socially subversive and promoting all sorts of disgusting garbage like destroying the nuclear family and homosexuality and transgenderism and all this nonsense at that time. So they were kicked out of Germany, where they later founded the New School, which is where we get all this feminism and all that. Don't think that women's rights was not a thing before feminism. The Christian temperance movement was not Marxist in origin, okay? So, and that's the thing is, basically feminism is like the evil version of Marx. Remember, feminism, the real name of feminism is radical Marxist feminism. These things are not designed to make the country work under a communist system. These things are designed to weaken the country so that a country that does work under a communist system, for example, the USSR, can swoop in and take over the country and then put a communist puppet government in charge of the United States, as they did with many of the Eastern Bloc countries. That was the goal of cultural Marxism. Do not confuse cultural Marxism with Marxism. Marxism was meant to be functional. It's not very functional, which is why you need Leninism or Stalinism to actually save it, but it was meant to be functional. Cultural Marxism is meant to destroy. That's what Black Lives Matter embraces, is cultural Marxism. That's where this critical race theory nonsense comes from. That's where all this crap comes from, is cultural Marxism. Not Marxism. If you don't believe me, read Marx's books. There's nothing about cultural Marxism in Marx's books. That comes later from the Italians and the people that, Germany threw out in the New School. The New School in New York. That's where that all comes from, all that happy horse crap. That has nothing to do with Karl Marx or Friedrich Engels, okay? Or Engels, however you say it. Now, let's compare the Salt March to Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement and Muhammad Ali and these people. You cannot compare Mahatma Gandhi and the Salt March, which was completely peaceful and was not violent in any way against the British oppressors of the Indian people. And I'm saying that lightly, because I agree with the colonization of India, and I believe that British colonization of India lifted India up much more than it harmed India. But you have to understand that Gandhi did not commit any acts of violence. His followers did not commit any acts of violence. And what happened? Gandhi had his statue torn down for racially charged remarks he made prior. This is what's funny. Prior to Mahatma Gandhi working to help the South African blacks obtain liberation from the apartheid Afrikaners, and this is why you should never help these people. Okay, never. Okay, so Mahatma Gandhi made some racially charged statements prior to becoming enlightened. He had stated that same thing I believe Schwarzenegger stated. Don't hold me to this. I'm not saying Schwarzenegger did say it, but I believe he said something like this when he was in South Africa. But Mahatma Gandhi stated that if, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly, that if if South Africa fell into the hands of the black Africans, that they would basically run it into the ground. So these statements are the reason that people destroyed Mahatma Gandhi's statue, completely ignoring that Gandhi was one of the main masterminds and legal masterminds behind the South African movement for independence from apartheid. Okay, so what he did after that, after he received his enlightenment, okay, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that he said some mean things. So we're going to take down his statue despite all the good things he did for our people. You get what I'm saying? So this is what really irks me. So, and please follow the links in the description. I give links to the English Civil War. I give links to Quakerism. I give links to Puritanism. I give links to what the Black Lives Matter movement says they stand for, which is certainly, if you support that, you're crazy. That's like, you cannot be mentally healthy and support the Black Lives Matter movement if you support what they demand. And you'll notice a lot of these liberal yuppie sons of bitches. I mean, that's who supports this crap. That really is who supports this crap. A lot of liberal white idiots that support this crap. Now, these are probably the same people, like the missionaries in South Africa that supported the end of apartheid. Look where they ended up. Look where the liberal French that supported the liberation of the Haitians, look where they ended up. I'm just throwing that out there for all the people that think it's so great to support Black Lives Matter. Think about where that's going to get you. Okay? Think about where that's going to get you. Now, let's also consider the origins of the United States of America. From the English Civil War, which is where it really starts, is with the English Civil War, through Quakerism, through the colonization of the United States, through until we received our independence. And, compare that to Black Lives Matter. Compare an organized war for independence against a bunch of people whose basic... Now, this is the thing with the average looter. I want free stuff. I have an opportunity to get free stuff. I'm going to take free stuff. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. We're going to just take free stuff. And why is America in the shape that it's in today? It's because the founding stock is not as prevalent as it is amongst the white people in this country. The country might be 60% white, although as I stated in my previous video, that number is completely ridiculous. But it is not of the British people and the German people that were initially the creators of this country. Okay, it's a lot of liberal people that came here after the fact from Germany, from Central Asia, from Russia, from Poland, from Ireland, from Italy. Okay, this has destroyed the nationalistic mindset of this country. And don't think that the United States was not nationalistic. If it wasn't nationalistic, it would have never tried to get independence from Great Britain. Think about that. Borders matter, nationality matters, blah, 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 blah. That's all for this video. Stop, please, please stop comparing the Boston Tea Party to violent insurrections by violent members of the Black Lives Matter movement.